they said the sound was muffled last night. Yeah, because sometimes it gets real tight. Yeah, but anyway, we're live. The Untouchable True School Sports Empire proudly presents something the boxing games are missing. Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. Now, guys, once again, we are live, and it is great to be seen. It is great to be here. It is great to talk to the fine fans of boxing, and we got a great show for you guys today because there's a lot to discuss. There's a lot to dissect with this whole Frank Warren, Turki, Alal Sheikh lawsuit. You got, Jai Pataya on the neck of Zuffa Boxing, already pissed off about things that haven't even happened to him yet. So we'll get into all that. I don't know if I'm going to have 2 hours for you guys today because we are on a bit of a time crunch. So the show might be cut to 90 minutes. We'll see how it goes. We'll play it by ear. But nonetheless, shout out to everyone here. Make sure you guys smash that like button if you're watching the video live. If you're watching the playback, hit the like button as well. And definitely feel free to make your comments and presence felt on this live and throughout the duration of this time we have together. A lot we can talk about with Turki and Frank Warren and these kind of things. But before we get into anything, right? Before we get into anything else, I want to take some time to pay my respects to, a fighter that passed away today, a fighter that gave his absolute heart and soul to this sport. We're talking about a guy who was a 79 fight, yes, you heard that correctly, a 79 fight veteran. Four-time world title challenger, never quite got over the hump, but he was always in great fights. He was always a willing challenger and someone that had a warrior's heart. So I want to say rest in peace to Ruben Castillo. RIP to Ruben Castillo. He passed away today. And just before we get into the live, I want to take some time just for a couple minutes to talk about Ruben Castillo. They don't really make guys like Ruben Castillo anymore. You don't really see these kind of fighters that have, 70 fights, even at the top level, let alone guys like him that were contenders, right? So he's kind of a relic from the past. He represents a time in boxing that was very different to what we have now, for better or for worse. He competed in the 1977 United States Championships that was broadcast by ABC and Don King and Ring Magazine. Funny enough, Ring Magazine was getting paid off by Don King to bump fighters up in the rankings, and even kind of fluff the records up, right? And that was a big scandal that happened. And overall, just a very crafty fighter in the pocket that didn't lack any heart. He was one of those guys too. Even when his prime passed him by multiple times over, he made 2 or 3 comebacks. So even when his skills and his reflexes and his physicality had eroded, he still had this fighting spirit to continue trying to achieve his dream, becoming a world champion. He didn't achieve it in the ring, but he left a very respectable career behind him, and definitely one of the true warriors of the sport. If you haven't watched, to anybody out there who doesn't know anything about Ruben Castillo, if you've never seen him against Alexis Arguello or Salvador Sanchez or Julio Cesar Chavez or Juan Laporte, I would advise you to go watch any and all those fights. He was one of those fighters that just left it all in the ring, really and truthfully. So it's not always about being champion. Obviously, it's great to be a champion, but a lot of times in boxing, along with being a champion and not being a champion, it's more so about the moments and the memories that you leave with the fight fans and the people in the fight game, and that's what I think is just as important as winning a world title is the moments. Did you leave anything memorable about yourself while you were here in the fight game and in the boxing ring? And I can honestly say, hand on heart, Ruben Castillo did those things, and if you go watch his fight, you'll see that. So rest in peace to him. May God rest his soul and comfort his family and anybody that knows him in real life at this time. And yeah, that's pretty much how I'm gonna start the live off. So rest in peace to Ruben Castillo. But shout out to everybody here, all 10 of you here. Make sure you guys smash the like button because, really and truthfully, the streets of boxing, they need to hear this. And many times YouTube tries to suppress the real channels like mine, the one that give you guys, that comes here and give you guys the whole scope of the fight game. They try to suppress my channel and push up the other channels that maybe don't really like boxing like we do here on True School Sports. So help others help make it easier for others to find the content on here, because the likes do help, and it does tell the algorithm that you guys like True School Sports, that you like BT, that you like what's being talked about on here, and yeah, I really appreciate that. But a lot to talk about today. Let me see. Any other comments? No other comments? Cigar Zero says, God bless you. So look, I'm not gonna waste no time. I'm not gonna mess about as far as what we gotta talk about, because we are in a bit of a slight time crunch today. So let's just jump into it, and whoever has to chime in can chime in, and hit the like button and subscribe and super chat and all that blase blase. But look, let's get right into it, guys, because you got Frank Warren, all right? Frank Warren is he's suing Turkey Al Sheikh and Salah. For those of you who don't know, Salah is the Saudi company in conjunction with TKO Holdings that have spearheaded this whole Saudi revolution in boxing, right? So Frank Warren is suing Turkey Al Sheikh in conjunction with Salah, and he's suing them for breach of contract and damages. You could say punitive damages of approximately $1 billion, right? 730 million pounds, 1 billion US dollars. So yeah, let's try to pack all this and make sense of it and give y'all guys the large picture, because Frank Warren, for those of you guys who are really paying attention 3 years ago when all this stuff started happening, it was Frank Warren that was at the forefront of all this. It was Frank Warren that gave the Saudis a real lift in their early days in the fight game, right? So much so to the point that Frank Warren and the Saudis signed an exclusivity agreement back in 2023. TKO, Salah, all those people, they signed an exclusive agreement. So basically meaning, any and all business that was conducted with and for the Saudis moving forward would have to, in some way, shape, or form, include Frank Warren. So if you look at a lot of the guys that have fought on these Riyadh season cards, think about some of the early cards that happened on Riyadh season. Do you guys remember the Matchroom versus Queensberry versus? You had guys like Philip Hergovich and you had Nick Ball and Raymond Ford and well, that's Matchroom, but you had Nick Ball, you had Daniel Dubois. You've had a lot of Queensberry fighters make their mark in this whole Riyadh season era, this whole moment in time. So he has played a role, right? And they signed an agreement. Now the deal included quite a few things. The deal included Frank Warren, playing a big role in organizing the events, organizing the fights, co-promoting, if you will, and also giving the Saudi Arabians like Turki Al Sheikh insight onto how to expand their business in boxing, and pretty much just letting them know, like, okay, these are the inner workings of boxing. This is how the boxing industry works. And he really did play a big role in why Turkey and what Turkey was doing early on, right? You can't refute that at all. You cannot dispute that or refute that at all. Mind you, when you look at some of the early fights that gave Riyadh season, Turki Al Sheikh and the Saudis like real relevancy in the sport, it was fights like Tyson Fury with Alexander Usyk. Well, guess what? Who played a massive role in putting that deal together? Frank Warren, right? So we get to a point now where Frank Warren has paid his dues. He's giving these guys an insane amount of value, and I always told you guys, if you guys go back, when it seems to many of you guys like I was hating or talking trash or being just this angry boxing fan, I was telling you guys back in 2023, even in parts of 2024, I said, look, enjoy these super cards, enjoy these fighters getting overpaid and all these super cards, because this is going to be but a moment in time. This is not sustainable. This will not last forever. I don't care about how much money they tell you the Saudis have. I don't care how rich somebody is. No one wants to lose money, and they're not generating a massive gate, right, or anything like that to cover the expenses of the fighters. So inevitably, the move was always going to be that the Saudis and Turki Al Sheikh were going to scale back and pull slowly but surely pull their investment or go a new direction, right? And that new direction has come in the form, guys, of the fine folks of Zuffa Boxing and Dana White, right? So Dana White, Zuffa Boxing come into the fold. Turki Al Sheikh is helping bankroll them and get them started here in the States on Paramount Plus. And what Turki Al Sheikh has done, he's done what many promoters do and what many power brokers in the sport have done throughout the history of the fight game. He's cut out Frank Warren from the deal. Frank Warren and the fine folks of Queensberry are not sitting at the table in this new Zuffa boxing era. So Frank Warren don't like that. Frank Warren's like, you know what? Nah, man. We signed a contract. It was legally binding. I did all this for you. And he's saying, look, they poached some of his fighters and took them over to Zuffa, and it's cost him upwards of, 730 million pounds and 1 billion US dollars. So that's where we're at. And I gotta give a wag of my finger to Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn, because you got to understand why this is happening. You have to understand where we came from. You understand? You have to understand where we came from. Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn, they were with Queensberry. They were with Matchroom Boxing and Queensberry Promotions, respectively. They both had the UK boxing market in the Cobra Clutch. They never worked together. They never did like real business together before Turki Al Sheikh. And funny enough, they hadn't even really met each other before Turki Al Sheikh. So them being fragmented is the reason why a guy like Turki and Salah and the Saudis could come in the first place. They weren't doing what was best for the sport. They weren't doing what was best for the British boxing market. And as a byproduct of that, they were forced to work with each other anyway. Ain't that funny how that works, right? So I gotta give a big wag of my finger to them, really and truthfully. And this is what happens, guys. Like, this is what happens when you don't have morals and principles. As the old saying goes, not all money is good money. Straight up. Sure, they were getting paid a lot of money, but not all money is good money. This is what happens when you bow down to an authoritarian regime, an authoritarian figure like Turki Al Sheikh. Turki Al Sheikh used them and played them. He got all the information he needed about how to operate in the fight game, used them, sold them a dream, lulled them to sleep with all the money that he was waving around. And now that he's learned enough and he's gotten the right contacts, and now you got Dana White involved, he's phasing them out. He's kicking them out. And so this is Frank Warren's fault. This is Eddie Hearn's fault. They have blood on their hands. They have really disgraced themselves in this whole Riyadh season era, if I'm being honest. And I have a lot. The good thing about me is, I have a long memory. Eddie Hearn's talking about Dana White. Turki Al Sheikh is Dana White's daddy. But it wasn't so long. It wasn't that long ago that Eddie Hearn was literally saying that if Turki Al Sheikh asked him, if he asked him to sign, if he asked him to shine his shoes, Eddie Hearn would have shined Turki's shoes, right? So it's funny how the tables turn. And yeah, that's all I gotta say on that for now. I mean, I got a couple more things I want to get to on that, but let me take some time taking all some comments, because I see we got some comments here. We got my main man, Joshua Heath in the building. He says Frank can't get Nick Ball the Inoue payday anymore after getting KO'd by Figueroa, and isn't that glorious? Ain't that glorious? Because guys, I'm gonna tell you right now, Nick Ball was not trying to fight any of the featherweight champions. He was gonna sit on that belt. I know that for a fact. With all due respect, BT, Frank is not the chosen one. Is he not? Is he not to destroy the Zuffa and bring balance back to boxing? With all due respect, BT, is Frank Warren not the chosen one? Is he the chosen one? You asked me if he is the chosen one. He might. I mean, Frank Warren's been through a lot of things in his boxing career. I mean, this is a guy that literally got shot in his neck and lost some of his lungs because he was stealing money from a fighter. And he's survived all kinds of lawsuits. He's survived Eddie Hearn passing him in the UK boxing market for a time. He's been through all kinds of things. So one thing about Frank Warren that you can't ever doubt is his resilience, his ability to push forward even through the midst of adversity. You understand? I'm not gonna call him the chosen one, but I think he's gonna fight tooth and nail. My man right here says, "Hey bro, any advice on getting Inoue tickets as a US fan?" I have no advice. I have zero. People keep asking me that. I have no advice. The Japanese lottery system is tough enough as it is, and it's very annoying. And for Inoue fights, it's extra annoying. So my best bet, your best bet is to have someone in Japan who you're friends with that can help you, because that's how I went to the Jin Brian Norman Jr. fight. So I don't got any detailed advice. It's very annoying to buy Naoya Inoue tickets. I can say that much. Finger wag for Oscar selling ring. You saw that terrible tweet they put out. Yes, I did. And you know what? I'll pivot into that because that was actually the next thing I was going to talk about. So thank you. By the way, there's 20 of you guys here. Smash that like button, guys. I'm not sure how long I'm going to be here, so please, I want as many people to get into this live as much as possible while I'm here. I might be live 30 to 45 minutes shorter today, so please hit the like button. Now that'd be greatly appreciated. But as far as the ring, I gotta wag my finger at Oscar De La Hoya as well because Ring Magazine has never been squeaky clean. I mentioned Ruben Castillo fighting in the 1977 U.S. boxing championships that were corrupted by Don King, paying Ring Magazine to bump fighters up in the rankings that didn't deserve it, right, for his tournament. So there's always been corruption with Ring Magazine, right? But for the most part, they had at least some sort of credibility and prestige, right? There was once upon a time where Ring Magazine meant something, but then Oscar made a very, very terrible decision to sell to Turki Al Sheikh, and Ring Magazine has become the ultimate propaganda machine in boxing because as soon as all this stuff came out about Frank Warren, Ring Magazine had a tweet, and pretty much to summarize it for you guys, um, Ring Magazine pretty much said that Frank Warren is broke without the Saudis, that he can't stand on his 2 feet without the Saudi investment with Salah and Turki Al Sheikh. Um, and yeah, and he said pretty much too that the driving force behind why Frank Warren is trying to sue Turki Al Sheikh and Salah is because of the fact that they're broke and they can't survive without the Saudi investment. So there's that, and then they go a step further, which to me was it's just propaganda. Ring Magazine also went on to state that Daniel Dubois versus Fabio Worley tickets are not selling that well, despite the fact that tickets have not yet went on sale at all. So they're telling lies. They're spreading false narratives, and this is what I told you guys what was going to happen from day one. When Turki Al Sheikh bought out Michael Benson's Twitter account, and when Oscar sold on the Ring Magazine, I told you guys, Ring Magazine as we know it has gone effectively deep into the shitter. It's boxing's biggest propaganda machine, and anything that Turki Al Sheikh wants out there, any narrative that he wants pushed out there, will be pushed to the masses and be accepted as fact. Right? Look at Subru Matias. I told you guys right here on True School Sports that Subru Matias was going to be vindicated, but they told you guys Subru Matias did this and that, and I was proven right, and Ring Magazine was proven wrong. So this is where we're at now in boxing. This is where we're at, and I respect Frank Warren, for his ambition and his gumption and his willingness to fight the Saudis because they have a very, very long money that really and truthfully he can't compete with. So I'm not really sure how he's gonna win this. May God be with him because he's definitely gonna need it. And yeah, hopefully it works out for him because um, it's not good when you get cut out of a deal. But again, this is Frank Warren's fault. This is Eddie Hearn's fault. These guys, they saw Turkey waving his magic wand around, and they thought that he really had the best interests. He didn't. He used them as nothing but mere agents and pawns to gain information out of and extract information from and learn about the fight game. And then once he found someone else that kind of aligned more with his vision, like Dana White, now they've graduated to a new stage and they're cutting those guys out of the deal. So that's where we're at. And yeah, what do you guys think? What do you guys make of all this? Shout out to my guy High Yield Harry. He says, I don't think Zuffa boxing is gonna succeed. It's good. It's a very intriguing time. I like some of the things Zuffa's doing. Some things I still have questions about. But one thing I can say about Zuffa boxing, one thing that they're bringing to the table, which I think could make them very successful, they're bringing the one thing to the table that every promotional company has failed to bring all these fighters for years. And you know what that is, guys? Structure, structure, and activity. Like, fighters know that they're gonna fight a certain amount of times a year, and Zuffa Boxing with Dana White, they're getting a lot of dates from Paramount Plus, which is a big time platform. You gotta remember, Zuffa Boxing is just a piece of the pie. They're under the Endeavor and TKO Holdings umbrella. So you got like Nick Khan and Ari Emanuel and these really powerful Jewish guys, right? That have all this influence. And they already have their hands on UFC and wrestling and these kind of things. And so now you get these guys involved in boxing along with investment from Turkey. It's a pretty big time machine to deal with. We'll see how it goes. At the end of the day, they still have to make fights that are going to captivate the boxing public and get people interested in their product. So we'll see how that goes. But they're providing structure, and for a lot of fighters that don't have opportunities to have a real career with Matchroom Boxing or PBC or Top Rank or Golden Boy, this is looked at to be a safe haven for them, a new lease on life, if you will. So um, I'm waiting to see how it's going to play out. Thus far, what I can say, just judging off 3 cards, every card has gotten better. The first card was very mid, subpar. Second card was very much improved. The third card was an absolute banger. Every fight on the main card was a fun fight to watch. Was entertaining. Had interesting fighters on there. And the best part is, guys, we haven't even gotten to the part with Zuffa where they're gonna be fighting for belts. I think things will really heat up on March 8th when Jaya Pataya and Brandon Glenn fight for the first ever Zuffa belt. But we'll see. We'll see. At the end of the day, I still think there's challenges for Zuffa to overcome because even though they do have the money, even though they do have a lot of things behind them, they're going up against a lot of legacy and history, right? Like the Zuffa belt doesn't really have value like that right now. Now, if they continue to get these guys like world championship fighters, top guys to come to Zuffa and fight, then that's going to help legitimize the belt. So they got Jaya Pataya, they get signed Conor Benn. If they were to get somebody like, let's say, Shakur Stevenson, right? Because apparently they want to sign him. Bam Rodriguez nearly signed with Zuffa. Matchroom had to actually match the offer to keep Bam. If they were to get someone like in that caliber, a Shakur, a Bam, a top upper echelon guy, that would really make them more legitimate as far as the belt's concerned. And then a lot of fighters would follow suit because ultimately the rest of boxing is always going to follow what the best fighters in the world are doing. So if the top 1% is fighting on Zuffa, they're going to go to Zuffa. No different than like back in the day on wrestling, right? I know it's like a stupid analogy, but like when Hulk Hogan and Kevin Nash, when they left WWE or WWF and they went to WCW, where did everybody start going? They went to WCW because Ted Turner was paying. So it's the same thing. Pac-Man says, I wonder if it's just Frank Warren or will other promoters come out with stuff like that. Turkey is powerful, but he ain't perfect. He's made mistakes and left footprints even in boxing. I don't know. I mean, Turkey's not even really working with Frank Warren anymore. He's working more with Dana White, and it's like I said, it's a whole new era. It's a completely whole new era. That 2023, 2024, those years, like I told you guys back then, that was just a moment in time for Turkey to get his foot in the door, for him to get the power brokers of boxing to trust him so that he could use them, right? And that's why we're at where we're at now. And I always told you guys that, Ian, back then, if you go back and you check those videos and you watch those lives. Let me see. I know I missed a couple comments. Shout out to everybody here. We got a lot of interesting comments. My man Cigar says Magic Man Ricardo Salas versus Jesus Sriracho is on the co-main event on March 8th. That's a fire fight. That's a great fight. I like that fight. Ricardo Salas. Like, that's another thing. With Zuffa Boxing, there's plenty of guys that are really good fighters but aren't commercially viable, right? So those guys would always get stalled out and not really have the chance to have a career. But a guy like Ricardo Salas, right? A guy like Ricardo Salas, who knocked out Romain Villa, who is a legitimate welterweight contender, who has been doing his job in the ring, he's going to get a chance to actually not just have a career, but potentially even shine. So, I have things that, I have things about Zuffa that I'm skeptical of, but what can you do? It's not like Matchroom Boxing or PBC or Top Rank or Matchroom are giving these guys much of a better alternative. The best thing they can do, if you're Matchroom, if you're PBC, if you're all those promoters, if y'all all start working together right now and putting on tournaments, right? Like, for example, on these lives and in my videos all the time, I always see people tell me, BT, when is your boy Angelo going to fight a unification fight? one of the featherweights gonna go unify the division. I'll tell you this: if all these promoters got together, and I'll even lump in Pro Box, if all these promoters got together like tomorrow or next week and said, you know what, we're gonna do tournaments. We can't compete with these guys as far as money and as far as the bankroll is concerned. But what we can do, because we have the talent, is we can make the best fights and make them at a very, very consistent rate. If they did that, like let's say starting at the beginning of March, if they were to do that at the beginning of March, then I think Zuffa Boxing would have a real battle on their hands. But that's not happening right now because look how hard it is for Virgil Ortiz and Jaron Ennis to get done, right? Virgil Ortiz and Jaron Ennis is a really good fight. Two very, very exciting fighters to watch. But Virgil Ortiz and Jaron Ennis, when you really boil it down on paper, it's a non-title fight. Neither one of those guys is a world champion, and it's like pulling teeth. Rick Marigan wants to sue Oscar. Oscar is putting a temporary restraining order on Rick Marigan. Virgil Ortiz is countering the temporary restraining order. Meanwhile, Jaron Ennis can't get the fights that are going to progress his profile in the sport. So it's a mess. And I think no matter what side of the fence you're on, you'd be foolish to act like the present options are doing their thing right now. Shout out to Hawker Mustang. Good to see you, champ. Good to see you. BT, can we scream from the Raptors for Zuffa to renew the greatest rivalry in boxing, Philly versus Angola? Why not, man? Do the Boots Lima rematch. Why not? All Zuffa is gonna do is rig job boxing like they do at UFC. They're thus making it harder for the betting public to predict fights and win. Boxing doesn't need more corruption, and fans don't deserve it either. I hear you, man. Trust me. I understand your points. But like I said, you guys got to think about it, because like I don't even want to boil it down to the last 10 years. I feel like if you're boiling it down to the last 10 years of boxing, you're not looking broad enough, because I think boxing's problems, they started back in the day. Like I'm talking about like with Tyson and Lewis, back when Don King was on Showtime and Bob was on HBO. They had fights that they didn't make back then, and um, obviously, as time more progressed, Golden Boy had their era. Then Al Heyman took Espinoza's fighters. Al Heyman took Oscar's fighters with Espinoza, I should say, and then started PBC. So it's been like the last 30 years that have led to this. It hasn't just been like 2 years or 5. It's been like the last 30 years. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, how are you gonna talk about boxing being rigged? Boxing was rigged without Zuffa. Um, Boxing has been on the decline since before you were born, Brendan. This is true. This is true. I'm not refuting that. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying, like, to just pin it on one promoter or the other. I think that's like, no. It's been everyone. Everyone created the environment, from Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren in the UK to Heyman, De La Hoya, Bob. Everyone's played their role. By the way, guys, while we're on the subject of boxing being rigged, what do you guys think about Teofimo Lopez comments where he basically insinuated that he threw the Shakur Stevenson fight? Because he had said that, I think he said that I went in there and I made it look how I needed it to look. Yeah. What do you guys think about that? Do you guys think Teofimo Lopez threw the Shakur Stevenson fight, or is he just coping? Is it just cope? Was Shakur just actually that much better than Tio? I wonder if it's just Frank, or will other promoters come out with stuff like... Oh, no, I read that already. My man right here says, Pro Box has been the purest form of the sport. I hear you, man. I mean, I like Pro Box TV, and I do have a soft spot for Pro Box because, I know a lot of the current staff and former staff there. But let's call a spade, man. Like, Pro Box don't have the bankroll to compete on that top level with the other promoters. Yes, they make good fights. Yes, they're well-matched fights. Yes, it's very good value for what's being put out there. But I mean, I don't want to get into it. But you got, Angelo Leo's a world champion, and he just lost a purse bid to... They just lost a purse bid to Manny Pacquiao Promotions, and they're not even treating their first world champion Actually, their only world champion. They're not even treating him the way he needs to be treated. So it's like, does Pro Box really deserve that kind of success at that top level? I don't know. And I like Pro Box, but I gotta call a spade a spade. He says, I'm convinced that Teofimo Lopez was threatened by James Prince. You think so? It's possible. But shout out to all 19 of you guys here. Make sure you guys go ahead and smash that like button. It is, in fact, your boy BT, the untouchable True School Sports Empire. 2 lives in a row, guys. Two lives back-to-back days. I hope everybody's doing good. I hope everybody's week is good. You know, right now, um, we're in the beginning stages of Angel Leo training camp for the Rai Salim fight, and out here in Vegas, you know, helping any way I can, and I'm looking very forward to it. You know, we just need to find folks at Manny Pacquiao Promotions to go ahead and send the contract so the team can sign it. You know, so Angelo can sign it. We can have a fight and give you guys great fights. Have you ever seen the movie Split? Not Then. It's about a guy with multiple personalities. That's how I see Teofimo and what he says. Yeah, Teofimo, Ryan, these guys have very manic, unstable personalities. Before I would believe what Lopez just said, I would believe that Loma threw his fight versus Lopez because he didn't throw the punch. He didn't throw punches for the first 6 rounds. I mean, boxing ain't squeaky clean, and a lot of things happen on that top level. So nothing would surprise me as far as fights being thrown or anything like that. I don't even see the so-called hardcores watching Pro Box. When the Pro Box card is going on, these hardcores are on YouTube, not doing live streams, not watching the fights. That is true. For everybody who likes to glaze Pro Box, I mean, I don't see people doing post-fight review videos on Jesus Sriracha versus whoever. I don't see people doing live streams for Ricardo Salas or any of these guys that fight on Pro Box. So I agree. If y'all really love Pro Box like y'all say you do, you would go ahead and you would do more videos. And I'm speaking to the content creators. But you know what, guys? While we're on the subject of Zuffa boxing, and feel free to give your comments down below, I want to kind of briefly talk about and touch on Jael Pataya. You know, Jael Pataya, he came out today because, you know, he's not that far away from his upcoming fight with Brandon Glenn in the inaugural Zuffa boxing title fight. That'll be March 8th down there at the Apex. And interesting fight. By the way, go check out the Brandon Glenn interview here on True School Sports. Brandon Glenn, very, very honest, very hardworking fighter. You know, I think Jael Pataya's best opponent probably since the Breeders' rematch, right? But he was speaking about his ambitions about, you know, what he wants to do with his career, because Jael Pataya is under the impression that by signing with Zuffa Boxing, he's gonna be allowed to go undisputed and still pursue the dream of having all the belts and being one face, one name, and one champion in the cruiserweight division. And I'll read you guys the exact quote word for word. Opataya stated the following, and I quote. He said, and I quote, "Undisputed, don't take your mind off undisputed. We're chasing unification fights. If we don't get one by the end of the year, I'll be very fucking disappointed." Those are the exact words from Jael Pataya. Now, Jai's had a hard time securing the big fights because he doesn't have that investment behind him, right? His Australian promoters haven't had the investment to entice these guys in the ring. I also know from my own personal conversations and my own personal dealings with fighters in the cruiserweight division, like, I know that Zoto Ramirez's manager wasn't keen on the idea of fighting Jael Pataya next. You know, I spoke to Zoto's manager at the WBA convention back in December, and he pretty much said, look, we don't want to do that fight because there's no money in it, and Jai isn't even that good. So that's why I'm fighting Benavidez, right? So either way, we want to cut it up and slice it. No matter what he said, they didn't fight Jael Pataya. So you gotta, it takes 2 to tango, right? So that's why, you know, he is where he is, and that's why he's fighting Brandon Glenn. But as far as him, like, wanting to go undisputed and maintain this ambition to want to get the belts, Jael Pataya I think he's in for a really rude awakening because I'm going to be real. Like, it doesn't take a boxing insider to know this. Zuffa Boxing does not care about the belts. And I can tell you guys from speaking to people that work on the inside for Zuffa Boxing, people that I've heard, that have real influence at Zuffa Boxing, they don't care about these belts. They don't care about your IBFs. They don't care about your WBAs, WBCs. They don't care about none of that. They're creating their own world and their own ecosystem. And I think Opataya is going to be screwed. I think he's going to be out of luck. He's not going to be able to unify or go undisputed or do any of those things that he has this ambition to want to try and do. Because they're not going to... They don't want to get involved with the sanctioning bodies. They want to create world domination of boxing. So that's what it is. Jai Opataya needs to understand that he has the most prestigious and important belt in boxing, the ring belt. I have an unpopular opinion, but I don't think the Ring Magazine belt is the most prestigious belt in boxing because it's a magazine. It's a magazine. Like Jaron Ennis, when Jaron Ennis fought Stanionis, I thought Jaron Ennis falsely won the Ring Magazine belt because it shouldn't have been on the line. The Ring Magazine belt should have been on the line if Jaron Ennis would have fought Brian Norman Jr., but he fought Stanionis. So Ring Magazine ain't perfect either. If you ask me, guys, if you're asking BT, if you're asking Brennan Taylor, what is the best belt in boxing? I think it's the IBF belt. I think the IBF belt is the best belt in boxing. They follow they have their things about them, but they follow the rules the closest. Whether you like it or not, mandatories get honored at a punctual time. They don't have a million different magenta and gold and blue belts like the WBC and WBA have. And yeah, they don't play favorites as much, as WBA or WBC or WBO. Ring Magazine, they play favorites, and they're playing favorites more these days with Turki at the helm. WBC plays favorites, WBA plays favorites, WBO plays favorites. The IBF, they don't do that as much. So for me, for my money, the IBF is the best belt in boxing. And in fact, I got a video dropping tomorrow on that, so make sure you stay tuned for that when it comes out. Did Jai not have anyone inform about how Zuffa works? No, I don't think so. He's lost. He's absolutely lost. What Latinos or blacks has Jai fought? He's gonna find out they're on a whole different level. There's barely any Latinos or blacks in the cruiserweight division. Zuffa is doing like half of the weight classes. That's whack. Well, Zuffa, they're keeping it to the original 8 weight classes of boxing. So that would be like, featherweight, lightweight, welterweight, middleweight, light heavyweight, those weight classes. So that's what it is. Listen, man, there's 28 of you here. Make sure y'all smash that like button. Run it up, man. We got 15 likes. Run this up so people can get in here while I'm still here. I probably got a little bit less than an hour left before I end this live. So please, guys, smash the like button so other boxing fans that aren't hip to True School Sports, that aren't subscribed to the channel, have a chance to come here and maybe learn some new things or ask questions and get some different type of insight. Random question: is Yugo Osaki ranked in the IBF? I haven't checked the rankings in like a week or so. He was ranked in one of the sanctioning bodies. I can't remember if it was the IBF or WBO, but I know he was like 14. Yeah, I think he was like 14 in one of them. The WBA is okay, BT. They gave Andy a shot. No, but yeah, they gave Andy a shot. But really and truthfully, the WBA plays more politics than even probably the WBC does. At one point, the ring gave their titles away without guys fighting for them. That's true. Like they're not perfect. Max Kellerman started going on ESPN and all these different talk shows 20 years ago and started talking about how the Ring Magazine is the real title. And he said it over and over again to the point where it got accepted as truth, and it's not. To quote one of the great guys in boxing media, my main man, Ben Thompson from Fight Hype, Ring Magazine is just that, a magazine. Do I think Devin Haney is ducking Keyshawn Davis? Keyshawn Davis is not a welterweight, but what I will say is Devin Haney ain't keeping that same energy, so It's up for interpretation. I would say I would lean more towards yes than no. Do I? Do you know what's going on with Daryl Blast Valzane? He hasn't fought in a while and looks like he doesn't train at Pro Box. I don't know, man. Your guess is as good as mine. I haven't seen or heard anything from Daryl Blast Valzane in a while, so that might be a question for Gary Jonas and Daniel Ruben, because that was their guy. That was like one of their golden boys. The Ring magazine is definitely more important nowadays. That's Turkey's golden ticket. If you got one, you can get whatever you want. I think. I think it's less important, to be honest with you. I think it's less important. I mean, sure, Turkey bought it, and you can get a lot of opportunities from it, but I think it's the meaning of the belt has been diluted because of Turkey. You understand? But that's my interpretation. Is Big Bang Jang even fighting again? I haven't heard anything on him. Nope. So far, there's no Big Bang Jang fight news. But I mean, he's still ranked. He's still in the mix for big fights. Um, one of the guys that well, I don't know if you could say Turkey now because Frank Warren's suing Turkey, but Frank Warren, Turkey, they're pushing that kid Moses Italma really hard as the next great heavyweight, and he's beating up these guys and blowing through them in like 2 or 3 rounds, looking great. I would like to see Moses step up and fight Big Bang Zhang. That'd be a good fight because Zhang's a legitimate ranked contender, proven, real puncher. If he can beat a guy like him, that really, to me, puts him on a trajectory where he could become a world champion. A-Buck50 says, random question, BT. Is there any top welterweight in previous eras that a prime Spence could beat or be competitive with? A prime welterweight from previous eras. I think Spence would have did pretty good or would have been competitive in that whole era with like Donald Curry and Marlon Starlin and them kind of guys. I think he would have given one of those guys a good fight. Pac-Man says, how do you think Zuffa will clash with Mr. Honda if or when they try to get into Japanese boxing? That's a great question because one thing about the Japanese fight scene that I know is that they're like very particular and they're very like how do I say it? They're very anal about how they do things. They want to keep everything in house. They're very protective of how they do things. But I think we saw the first chink in the armor with Japanese boxing when they went over to Saudi. They sent Kenshiro to Saudi, Inoue to Saudi, Juto to Saudi. So they kind of tipped the hand a little bit. I think what they showed is that for the right price, they'll play ball and they'll get involved with the powerful guys in the sport, which is crazy to me because when you look at the entire world, America, UK, whatever you want to name, the Japanese boxing market to me is the healthiest in the world because they're the only of the big countries in boxing. They're the only country I can say really doesn't need anyone else to be successful. Like they have very good infrastructure. They do a good job of keeping their fighters active for the most part. Um, they do a great job. I can't hate on them. So it's weird. It's weird seeing them kind of play ball. But I guess as I say, money talks. So that's what it is. OFG22 says Angelo Leah will be the undisputed featherweight champion. Salute to you, BT. I agree. I 1000% agree. We can't count our chickens before they hatch or count our eggs before they hatch. But so Rais Salim is the only thing on my mind. I'm not thinking about the guys with the belts right now, but when the time comes, I believe that. I don't have too many convictions in sports or boxing or life, but that's one that I do hold pretty strongly. Let me see. I missed a couple. It's time, BT. We're creating the greatest belt in the world, the True School Sports World Title. Nah, man. If we created the True School Sports World Title, the same team fees $5 million. You need $5 million to fight for the True School belt. The IBF is forcing Hitchens to fight Lindolfo Delgado next if he stays at 140. Yeah, and it's a tricky situation because normally when fighters pull out of fights, it doesn't happen in the manner that Hitchens did it. Normally, like if a guy were to pull out of a fight, it'd be during his camp, it'd be a couple weeks before the fight. So then you could have the standby opponent ready to go. But he literally got all the way to the day of the fight, damn near. The day of the fight, actually. And he pulled out at the 11th hour. So now there's a mandatory due that's been due for a while. Hitchens has to fight Delgado. I don't really want to see that fight, to be honest, because I don't particularly rate or like Delgado like that. I think he's looked very average in a lot of his fights, but um, yeah, I mean it's the IBF being consistent for good, bad, or indifferent. Japanese boxing will be fine. I think it's not like most of us know about them to begin with. That's true, and they don't really care to be known by us in America. If it wasn't, if you were to remove True School Sports from the YouTube boxing community, um, not as many people would know about Japanese boxing. Let's be honest here. Like, let's be real. Like, if I wasn't here, like, a lot of these fighters that do get shot in Japan would get even more overlooked. You know, I really enjoy talking about them. So that's why all you guys even know these guys. Um, Edgar Berlanga called out Caleb Plant today to make a fight this year. Do you think it happens? Do you feel like Caleb has aged, and could Edgar beat him? Caleb's definitely aged, and he secured the bag. Like, he's good. He don't need boxing no more. So maybe his drive isn't what it used to be. Now, could Edgar beat him? I mean, Caleb Plant to me is the 6 round fighter, and he's always been about a 6 to 8 round, an 8 round fighter at best. And then the last 4 rounds, you got to grind it out and figure it out. But if Edgar can get close to him and land critical shots, yeah. I mean, Caleb Plant is a more skilled boxer, higher pedigree, but he's at the end of his career. So if that fight was to get done, I think that's a very, very interesting fight. Richie McFly says, I'm calling it right now, BT. Once Ryan's contract is up with Golden Boy, he's going to Zuffa Boxing for a potential Conor Ben fight. I could see that. I could that right there. I mean, that's insanely obvious. I think you're right on the money. You know, I'll tell you right now, is Zuffa Boxing, even though I don't think that fight is this great fight, those are two names. So if Zuffa Boxing is to make like Conor Ben versus Ryan Garcia for the Zuffa welterweight championship or something like that, that's gonna do crazy numbers, bring a lot of eyeballs to what they got going on there. Chris says, I follow some of Hitchens' teammates. They went out to eat a couple days ago, and he was there eating. He genuinely looks ill, and he's still frail. He's got to move up. Oh no, look. I have zero doubt in my mind that Hitchens is ill. Like, I saw him in 2024 at the Fontainebleau before the Lemos fight. He shouldn't even have been at 140 pounds back then. So imagine now, imagine right now. BT, as cold as that KO was from Jin, I ain't like how he let himself get punched on like that. I'm worried that he hasn't changed and he could run through the knockout again. Well, you know what? I'm actually supposed to be seeing Jin tomorrow. I'm supposed to see him tomorrow. So, I have some questions for him, and I have some things that some ideas I would like to get across to him and to his team, and hopefully what I tell them take it into some consideration, and hopefully he could improve, and use this time out here in Vegas and go back to Japan a different fighter, because I think there are some very redeeming qualities about Jin inside the ring, but he's got to harness some of the things that he brings into the ring and really become a more well-rounded fighter, a more mature fighter, if you will. So hopefully it goes well tomorrow. Abo50 says, Shushu and Figueroa just faced off. If they fight next, the pressure will be on Rafa to follow suit and accept the Leo fight. But I think it's more realistic he goes for the Navarrete Nunez winner. You hit the nail right on the head, man. I think with Navarrete and Nunez fighting this weekend, and then you also got Elijah Pierce fighting for the mandatory spot, I don't think Espinoza and the people that handle his career are going to be enticed to want to fight Elijah Pierce. And as far as him fighting Angelo Leo, I want to believe the best. I want to believe that they'll take the fight, but I'm also realistic. They're probably going to think that they're probably of the mindset that a Navarrete fight or a Sugar Nunez fight in Mexico between two, pure Mexicans, Puro Mexico, all that stuff, they may see that as a better business move. And he's already big for featherweight, so who knows if he's having weight problems. I want to help Angelo whoop Espinoza, and I want, because I know what caliber of fighter Angelo is, but I don't see it, and I hope I'm wrong. And if I am wrong, then I challenge Espinoza and or anybody from Zanford to pull my card, call the bluff. Because I don't believe Espinoza's gonna be fighting any of these guys at featherweight. Not Angelo, not Shushu, not Figueroa, because he's got too many options at 130 with big name Mexican fighters: Fernando Lopez, Sugar Nunez, Vaquero Navarrete, and I'm even missing one. Who do you got winning between Floyd Schofield and Lucas Body for the WBA belt? Very good fight. I got Floyd Schofield in that fight. Is he? That's a very, very interesting fight. Dave, I think about Dave Allen, not the most skilled guy in the world, but he's always, willing to step in there. Shout out to all 26 guys here. It's your boy BT, Bread and Tail, the Untouchable. You see it? You see it? We've been in the gym a little bit. We've been in the gym. True School Sports Empire. Make sure y'all smash that like button. Definitely subscribe. We're currently in pre-camp mode for the Angelo Leo Rice Salim fight. So hopefully when the date gets announced, you guys come out and support. The problem is they speak Spanish, and the people who criticize Espinoza speak English. This is but I've spoken to Espinoza myself, and I've seen interviews and things that he said. I just don't get the impression that like he just doesn't strike me as a very. It's not urgent for him. Like it's not burning him up inside to unify the division. You know, but you're wrong. I pray that I'm wrong, and that they just make it happen after he retires or no. I think he's one of those guys. Just someone who's been around him for 5 years and just knowing what makes him tick. I think he's gonna be involved in boxing in some capacity when he's not fighting no more because he loves this sport. I mean, he loves this sport. He's one of you guys. Like, truthfully, he's like one of you guys. If he wasn't fighting, he'd probably be doing what I'm doing, on YouTube, covering boxing or being a reporter or something like that because that's how much he loves the sport. I'll tell you guys a story if you guys want to hear a story. When we were in New Mexico for the Fernando Lopez camp, I remember very vividly. We went to go visit, and he showed me a big box of Ring magazine, Ring magazines, and it was a lot of them. And these are all Ring magazines he used to read when he was a kid. It was a lot. So yeah, he loves the sport, and so I think he's gonna be one of those guys that passes down what he learned and what he knows to the younger generation for sure. Pedro says, I called you out on his stream, BT. Call me out for what? What'd you call me out for? Some smoke? Joel, what's good, champ? We just here, man. We just here talking some boxing. Well, I'm not sure how much longer I have because we are operating under a bit of a time crunch today. That's just part of camp. There's a lot of moving pieces. So sometimes you don't know what the schedule looks like. But either way, it's good to be here. It's good to be seen by you guys. What's the word? What's on your guys' mind? Apart from the Frank Warren lawsuit, apart from Jao Pattaya complaining about Zuffa boxing, apart from R.I.P. Ruben Castillo passing away today, what's on your mind? He said, nah, I said that BT is there when you were in the background. That is true. Yeah, I seen you in the chat last night. By the way, guys, if you don't follow Angelo Leo, go follow him on TikTok at Angelo X Leo 777 37s. Angelo X Leo 777. He goes live on there just like we do here on True School Sports, and he talks to the fans. And sometimes I'll be on there just having fun, having a great time. So definitely go ahead and follow him. Dog says, BT, that short you posted of tapping the body with the stick, does that actually hurt? What does it feel like? Oh my God, it hurts. It hurts like hell. That exercise, now I don't know where it began. My first memories of seeing that whole stick exercise with the abs was Manny Pacquiao. He's the one that really made it popular. That's why Manny Pacquiao always had those steel abs when he fought. The best way I could describe it, it feels similar to like if you go in your house, go get a spatula. Get a spatula, whether it's a wooden spatula or a steel spatula, and then stick your arms out like this and have someone smack every side of your stomach, the sides, the top, the bottom, the left side, the right side, and just have them smack your abs, and do that for about like a minute or 2 minutes or 3 minutes or however long, and that will give you an idea of what it feels like. And then you also got to do the shoulders, the top of the shoulders, the back, the biceps, the triceps. How do you think, guys, that we look like this? Look at me, champ. Look at me. We in camp mode. Um, but yeah, it hurts. To answer your question in short, it absolutely freaking hurts. Just imagine your parents whooping you while you're flexing. You build muscle to defend it. That's what I'm saying. You gotta build the muscle. It hurts. I'm telling you guys, it hurts. If you don't believe me, go get a spatula in your house, and then stick your arms out like this, and then have someone tap the top of your stomach, the right side of your stomach, the lower part of your stomach. Which, by the way, if you're like me, someone who likes fried chicken and from Bojangles and sweet teas and stuff that's not healthy for you, the lower part of your stomach, sometimes it can be very, very soft. So that's what really hurts the most. But yeah, it's painful. But it's good though. It makes you feel stronger. It makes you feel like more like a warrior, more masculine, if you will. Pedro says BT is on Osterine. No, I'm not on Osterine. No Osterine here, buddy. Does anybody in the comments know? Because I'm not even sure myself. The first fighter I ever seen do the exercise was Manny Pacquiao. That's where it really got popular. But if it wasn't Manny, who popularized that whole stick with the abs thing before Manny? Because Manny had to get it from somewhere. Richie McFly said tiny and still doesn't move up. Do you think he's avoiding competition at featherweight? Also, who do you got out of Shushu and Inoue? 1000%. Naoya Inoue is a great fighter. He's one of my favorite fighters. I've said that many times. He's gotta, like, if he really wants to be box. I know people hate when I say this, but it's the truth, because you have good fighters, you have Hall of Famers, you have all-time greats, and then you have, in my opinion, what I call boxing royalty. And to me, someone doesn't achieve true boxing royalty at the highest level until they become a 5-division champion. Right? That's my opinion, because there's only like 7 of those, 6 or 7 of those in the history of boxing. If he goes to featherweight and he wins a title, whether it's against any of the champions, he will become a 5-division champion. I believe he'll become the 7th, because you have Sugar Leonard, you have Tommy Hearns, you have Oscar De La Hoya, you got Mayweather, Pacquiao, Terence Crawford. He'd be number 7. So why not? Because I'll tell you this: if Inoue doesn't do it, you got Kazuo Ioka, who's trying to do it himself, and he'll actually become the first Japanese fighter to do it, even though he's not regarded as highly as Inoue. I'm just saying that would be a feat that he'd miss out on. So there's incentive for him to go to featherweight, and there's great fights up there for him. Bruce Carrington, Inoue, it's an interesting fight. I definitely see Inoue taking the fight because he's never boxed at Madison Square Garden. Shushu runs his mouth a lot as far as promotion's concerned, and his name is buzzing right now. And he's beatable. Like, he's beatable. So if you're asking who I'm picking, I'm going Inoue in that fight. Shushu, there's some things that I think Shushu could exploit, but I don't think he has the experience to deal with that level of competition. He's got, in my opinion, even though he's a champion, he still has some seasoning to be had in the fight game. A man right here said, I just remember seeing fighters like Sugar Ray Robinson doing it with the medicine ball. So I don't know when the stick came out, but the medicine ball is old too. Yeah, the medicine ball I've seen, but I want to know, like, if there was a fighter before Pacquiao who was doing the stick to the abs. Because for me, I just know Manny. I know Manny was the first guy I saw do that. Did you know that Bill Haney just said that Inoue is a manufactured star? He said Inoue and became the underdog like his son. I mean, well, look, Bill's going to go on the Boxing Voice, which, they're cool, Bill, and he's just going to say things, right? Devin has accomplished some good things in the sport, but let's not get it twisted. Like he's not in a way. He's not on that level. He's good. He's pound for pound. He's good, but he's on that level. As far as him being manufactured, tougher. I mean, I don't believe that. I think Inoue is one of the best fighters out there. He won a world title his sixth fight. Um, he's fought guys that Devin Haney himself regards highly. Because I was in a media scrum when Devin Haney was doing his media workout for the Lomachenko fight, and I asked Devin Haney about the Inoue Fulton fight before it happened, and he was talking all this stuff about how great Stephen Fulton was and this, that, and the third. So it's like if Bill says that about Devin, then he's calling his son a liar because his son was popping up Fulton before Inoue beat up on Fulton. So that's why I stand on that. It's funny to say say that because not long ago Devin was saying that Inoue was one of his favorite fighters to watch. That Devin knows. Devin. That's just Bill being Bill. Bill's a master self promoter. You guys gotta really study these people and where they come from. Like, where do they come from? What makes them tick? Why do they say the things they say? Now, Bill Haney comes from the streets. Bill Haney used to work in the music industry a little bit, from my understanding, and he used his knowledge from those things, and he's promoted his son greatly. Back, I remember guys like 2014, 2014, back when fighters didn't even have YouTube channels. Devin Haney had a YouTube channel. He was promoting Devin Haney on YouTube like that, with real Devin Haney TV. So, that's just Bill talking. Half the time, media, he don't even believe or know what's coming out of his mouth. Now, I like Bill Haney. Like, Devin is cool. I mean, I'm not like the biggest Devin Haney fan, but Bill, I like Bill. I got time for Bill. Bill keeps things interesting. He keeps things fun. Cause most of the time when he's trash talking, it's not coming from like a terrible place. Like 90% of the time. Let me see. Speaking of Bill and Devin, because Devin's been talking about a lot, like what he wants to do. They floated around the idea of going to 154 pounds and fighting Xander Zayas. What do you guys think about? What do you guys think Devin's gonna do? Because Keyshawn Davis has been calling him out and running down on him. He really wants that fight. Devin and Bill aren't exactly jumping on the fight. What do you guys think the next move is? Personally, for me, I feel like Devin is going to try to fight Lewis Crocker, something like that. Go for the easiest champion in the division. UK fighter, guy that sold tickets out there in the UK when he fought Paddy Donovan. Because a lot of people don't even know because they didn't watch the fight, but when Paddy Donovan and Lewis Crocker both fought, they sold I think it was like 13 or 14,000 tickets because I think it was the first ever world title fight in Ireland for men, because Katie Taylor fought there, but for men. So he can sell out there. Maybe Devin gets the bag thrown out at him and he goes to the UK. Because Crocker is very beatable, and he's not a big time puncher, right? He's a counter puncher, so he's not gonna throw a bunch of volume at you. That's a very, very good fight for Devin on paper. Devin will continue to move like this Devin will continue to move like the manufactured fighter that he is. Damn. Y'all don't got no love for Devin Haney? I mean, I know a lot of you guys say that Brian Noman Jr. wasn't that good, but I give him credit for that win. Shout out to everybody here, man. We're an hour and some change in. We're here. We're in camp. Waiting on that date. Come on, Pacquiao Promotions, send the contract. We wanna get to it. We wanna dial it up. At this point, we gotta acknowledge Bill Haney as a matchmaker. If he's not jumping in a Keyshawn fight, he knows full well there's a chance of losing. Bill's I've always given Bill Haney his flowers because he is Devin Haney's manager. I've always said Bill Haney is one of the best managers in modern boxing history. Of the last 10 to 20 years, he's one of the best managers. Look how great he's guided Devin. Speaking of 147, a lot of former champs will be lingering. Brian Norman Jr., Tio, and Hitchin soon. We'll love to see all three of those guys mix it up. Hell yeah. I was just talking to Sean the other day because me and him were hanging out. And I was telling Sean, because we were talking amongst ourselves about the top fights that we want to see. And I told Sean, one of the top fights that I want to see in boxing is Brian Norman Jr. versus Teofimo Lopez. Because for me, that fight has so many storylines. That fight's so interesting because you got Tio and Brian Norman both coming off losses. Both of them will have their fair share of vulnerability. It's a really entertaining fight. I just want Shakur versus Haney. I don't care about anyone else. I like that fight. I mean, it'd be nice if it would happen, but Shakur is on some bullshit. He talking about he want to fight Devin at 144. Great matchmaking, aka manufacturing a fighter. No, you're wrong. You're right and you're wrong. Like you're right. There's many fighters that benefit from great matchmaking and looking better than they really are. That is true. However, make no mistake about it, even the greatest fighters of all time, they needed to take the right fights at the right time. Right? There's a happy medium between, you know, now there are guys that are manufactured, but then there are guys that are guided properly because when a fighter is going through the levels of prospect, contender, champion, and defending champion, you know, you have to know your fighter and you have to know, like, in terms of experience, in terms of skill set, in terms of mental makeup. Like, you got to know all these things and make the right decisions. So I don't agree with that. Everyone's favorite fighter, my favorite fighter, your favorite fighter, everyone's favorite fighter, has in some way, shape, or form, at some point in their career, benefited from having good people around them that know how to make the right fights at the right time. All of them, Floyd, everyone. What do you think about Haney using weaponized drug testing for his fights? I personally made videos using this opinion. Um, I have some pretty strong opinions on VADA, honestly, and they're not the opinions that most people in the boxing world share. I don't think VADA is squeaky clean at all. I'm not gonna get into it, but I mean, I know not one, not two, but many fighters that have not had great experiences dealing with VADA and Margaret Goodman. I think it's a possibility. I think it's a possibility that Devin and any A-side fighter who is connected with VADA is weaponizing the drug testing. And I don't like it, but it's a thing, and it's always been a thing. Prograis and Norman were both seen as dangerous fights for Haney at the time. Norman, from me, definitely. I thought, my dumbass picked him to win, right? But Prograis, I was always pretty sure Devin was going to beat him with no problems. I didn't really see him. I saw him as a good fight, but not like an extremely dangerous fight. But Norman, I did. That one I did. How can BT like Shakur versus Haney and not Bivol versus Better BF2? Because Shakur and Haney hasn't happened yet. The AIBA World Championships have already happened multiple times. I don't want to see the AIBA World Championships Part 3. I'm good. My man said, apparently Bill went on a YouTube channel and said that he spoke to James Prince for Keyshawn, but they didn't sound very interested. Listen, man, it's all business. They're not doing that fight till both of them is getting like close to 8 figures. Let's call it a spade a spade. Devin and Keyshawn are not fighting each other unless they're either fighting for 8 figures or close to it. That's what I believe. Why wouldn't Shakur want to move up? He can do it. Because Shakur Stevenson feels that because he beat Teofimo Lopez and he's been a champion in all his weight classes, that he's this Floyd Mayweather. He can just dictate everything to everyone. That's why. That's where he's at right now in his career. If you guys haven't done so already, do me a favor and make sure you smash that like button. So this live gets out to as many people as possible. And do me a favor, let me know what city, what state, what continent, what country you're watching from. This is, in fact, the untouchable True School Sports Empire. We're here live again for the second day in a row. And yeah, it's good. It's good to be here. Get your questions in, man, because I already done spoke about this lawsuit. Dial Batai was for boxing. We paid our respects to the great Ruben Castillo. All that. We got Tel Aviv, Israel in the building. Shout out to Tel Aviv. Yes, sir. Shout out to everyone out there in the world. You know? Really excited about this week, guys. Really an interesting week in boxing with Sugar Nunez and Navarrete fighting in a big Mexican fight. You got Elijah Pierce in the WBO eliminator. You got some great things happening in the fight game this weekend. Um, we got Rochester, New York in the building. Shout out to upstate New York. California, Rudolph in California. Shout out to my guy Osiris, one of my favorite Twitter accounts to follow and one of my favorite people that watches these lives. He says, I don't know. I don't think Shakur ever had any plans to campaign at 47. We're just putting that on him. And that's what they do. When you're a great fighter, when you're looked at on that level of like a Inoue and Usyk or Crawford, you have those expectations placed on you. BT, in my opinion, Haney's performance versus was amateur boxing was more amateur boxing than what Bivol did versus Beterbiev. And Beterbiev versus Norman, talent and pedigree is not a comparison. That is true. You know what? I'll agree with you on that. I'm down. Like, if you all want to accuse me of being a Brian Norman Jr. fanboy, you could damn near accuse me of that because I do like Brian. I'm a huge Brian Norman Jr. fan, but yeah, Beterbiev and I'm a huge Beterbiev fan too. Beterbiev and Norman are not close in talent or pedigree, straight up. And I was just telling someone about this the other day. I said Devin Haney beat Brian Norman fair and square, and he got it. But after the knockdown, he didn't really light the roll on fire. Like Brian Norman made some good adjustments here and there in the fight, and Devin was like conning his way through some of those rounds. But people don't want conversation. No, I don't agree with that. I think Navarrete versus Nunez has been promoted. It's just the fact that there are two Mexican fighters that don't speak English, so there's only but so much promotion you can do in America when two fighters don't speak English. But it's a great fight. Definitely one for the hardcores. BT, it'll be very difficult for Zuffa to enter the Japanese market. Dana White tried to get UFC in Japan, but was never able to outmuscle the domestic organizations like Ryzen Kickboxing. Yeah. And shout out to the fine folks at Ryzen. I got one friend that works for Ryzen in the media department. Shout out to them. Yeah, they got a stronghold over there. Ryzen Kickboxing is massive. So I can see your point. Should Vaquero Navarrete give Charlie Suarez the rematch? I think he should. I actually rewatched the rematch today with Angelo. Me and Angelo watched that rematch today here in camp, and yeah, bro, Charlie Suarez hit Navarrete with a punch, and they were saying it was a head clash, and they stopped the fight prematurely, and I feel like they robbed Charlie Suarez, and they took what could have been a potential career and legacy-defining moment away from him, and now he doesn't even get afforded the opportunity of getting an immediate rematch, and he has to wait for this fight to play out with Nunez and Navarrete, and he was already 36 years old when they fought, so it's like goes to show you just how unfair boxing is. My man Osiris says, I'm buying a cowboy hat just for Saturday. Do your thing, champ. After the knockout, he just survived like Kelly did versus Murtazali. Almost the same, bro. But yes, American fans will not accept that. Yeah, I thought like Devin won, and everyone remembers him dropping Norman and apparently doing what apparently looked like him breaking Norman's nose. But after the second round, it was actually pretty pedestrian, to be honest. Jack Reese made the final call, calling it a headbutt the night of the replay before. Yeah, Charlie got screwed. I'll tell you this, man. Vaquero Navarrete, I don't know how the hell he fights that style. Like, he really fights like a like a drunk Theo at a carne asada. Like he does so many things wrong. He falls over on his front foot. Uh, he twists himself out of position when he throws these hooks, these lead hooks. He's so entertaining. I love watching him fight. I'm really excited to see how he's going to deal with the pressure and the heavy hands of Sugar Nunez. Because one thing about Sugar Nunez, and I've been saying this, if you sit in front of Sugar Nunez and you let him plant his feet and get some combinations off, Sugar Nunez actually does have some decent hand speed. I think Navarrete is gonna get them bricks put on him by Sugar Nunez, and I think Sugar Nunez is gonna get the job done this week, come hell or high water. But listen, if Navarrete at this stage of his career, coming off of the Charlie Suarez fight, pulls this out of the hat, then to me, the legend of Vaquero grows just that much more. I remember seeing Vaquero drop Ruben Villa with a lead uppercut thrown all the way from the floor. I've never seen that before. He does so many things that you just can't game plan for. To beat a guy like him, you either got to be naturally bigger than him, like Dennis Baranchik was, or you gotta be a fighter with the insane amount of IQ and conditioning. Because you can't have one without the other against him. If you have the IQ, but you don't have the conditioning, you're gonna falter in the later rounds. And if you have the conditioning but you don't have the IQ, you're not gonna be able to properly interpret what the hell is happening. So I mean, to each their own. Everybody has everyone has their favorites in boxing. I love watching Navarrete fight. Straight up, I love watching him fight. It's funny. At first, I was picking Nav, especially since he's the underdog. But now I'm seeing on Twitter that everyone's picking Navarrete, and even the odds are switching to Nav. So now it makes me want to pick Sugar Nunez. Well, I didn't look at the odds. I don't even know what the odds were. I just think Sugar Nunez is gonna put them bricks on him, cause he gonna stand. Like, yeah, he moves. He's crafty. But if you stand in front of the Sugar Man gonna punch the hole through you. And I just think that this version of Navarrete now, if it was Navarrete that fought Pitufo Diaz from like 4 years ago, however long ago that was, then I would say yeah, I would go Vaquero. But I think Sugar Nunez is getting him at the right time. And on top of that, I think Nunez having to deal with Masna Rikishi moving around the ring, and I think he had to show a bit more craft in that fight, and even I think his last two fights against Pitufo and Masna Rikishi are gonna do him well. And I know people are kind of down on Sugar because he didn't knock out Pitufo, he didn't knock out Masna Rikishi, but I think those fights are what he needed to be ready for a fight like this. Oh my God, I was just telling Angelo that today. I was just telling him that. Imagine a fight between Vaquero and Venado. You got man, that would be insane. Something crazy will happen in that fight. I don't know what will happen, but something crazy will happen in that fight. That's the fight we need. Forget all this other stuff. I don't even care if Vaquero loses this weekend. If win, lose, or draw, before he hangs them gloves up, the fight I need to see is Vaquero versus Venado. Could you imagine the drunk Theo at the carne asada versus the deer that jumps up and throws Superman punches at you? The undercard is good. What are your thoughts on Tamir Smalls versus Abel Ramos? Ramos always has that right hand chance. Oh, that's a good fight. That's actually a very good fight. That's a fight that probably should have got its own video. I haven't done a video about it on the channel. Really and truthfully, Tamir Smalls is a strong fighter. He showed in I can't remember the fight he had. I think the guy's name was Mercado, big tall Puerto Rican guy. He struggles a bit with movers from what I can see on film watching him, but he is strong and he is explosive, as most Bozianis fighters are. Abel Ramos can punch as well. It's a tough one. I want to pick Ramos, I really do, but I'm gonna slightly lean towards the younger fighter in Tamir. I think Tamir is gonna have Abel right in front of him, and he'll be able to pace himself a lot better than he did when he fought Brian Mercado. Johnny says, "Tell Angelo I'm ready, champ." Angelo! I'm not even sure if he's here. Angelo! Yeah, he's not even here. I don't think he's here, Johnny. I think he's running, champ. So I don't know. The drunk uncle versus Kangaroo Jack. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, it's crazy because really, Abel Ramos should have been champion. I thought he beat Barrios. Like this Barrios title reign should have ended at Abel Ramos. My man Pedro says Angelo exposed for ducking Johnny. Yeah, I don't think I think he's running right now. How early do you guys wake up? Well, it depends on the day. Right now, like we're in pre-camp, so things are still kind of lax. They're lax right now, but when the real part of camp starts, we wake up very early. As do most fighters. Most fighters wake up early when you're in the nitty gritty of camp, but when you're in pre-camp, you just maintaining, so it's nothing too crazy. Um, Zuffa has both Odebek Komatov and Mark Moxile. That would be a crazy firefight if they made it. That's a great fight. That's a hell of a fight. I hope they take your advice and make the fight happen. Win this Angelo fight. We don't know yet. So for those that know, for those that don't know, Manny Pacquiao Promotions won the purse bid. So Pro Box, who's Angelo's promoter, didn't win the purse bid. So even though Angelo is the more accomplished fighter than Raiz, the more known fighter than Raiz, for all intents and purposes, he's the B side, right? Even though that's retarded, right? But that's what happened. That being said, they want the Pacquiao promotion won the rights to the fight, so they have until March 4th to send over all that stuff because that was reported by Dan Raphael. So nothing I'm saying is not out there on the internet. Dan Raphael reported himself that by March 4th, the fully executed contracts had to be sent with the details, the date, all that stuff, and then we'll know. But right now, I don't know. If I gotta take an educated guess, from giving you guys my educated guess, I'm thinking he fights April 18th at the Thomas and Mack Center against Manny on the Manny Pacquiao Provodnikov exhibition undercard, because Pacquiao Promotions is the lead promoter for that. So I'll go with that. But I don't know. I don't know. BT versus Neon would feed families. Come on, man. You guys are disrespecting me with all these streamers. Like I had some guys on the team telling me, "Oh, we want to see you fight Oblivion and Neon." Listen, man. If I'm gonna fight guys, if I was really gonna fight them guys, I'll beat the hell out those dudes. Them dudes can't fight. I want to fight. Like if I were to actually fight, I want to do this shit for real. Like not like fight actual fighters. But I have to get into actual fight shape, which is very very difficult. Y'all be disrespecting me with Neon. But yeah, shout out to everybody here. Um, Guys, give me 1 second. I will be back in like 2 minutes. Hold on. All right, my bad. I'm back, guys. My man says, "Let me gain a big subscriber base, and I'll call you out. Don't worry." Jake Paul would get you the bag, though. Yeah, I mean Jake Paul gets everyone the bag. Anthony Joshua fought Jake Paul. What do you think about Callum Smith versus Dan Morrell fight? That's a good fight. It got made like a week or two ago, and I haven't done my video about it because I really haven't had time to flesh things all the way out. But just off the rip, to me, I look at it in a sense for Dan Morrell. I don't want to say it's a do or die fight because he's not old, but he's coming off of a loss to Benavidez, and then he's coming off of a fight where he might have should have lost to Imam Katayev, right? So Morrell's stock has dwindled a bit, you know. So I like the fight, and for Callum Smith, if he beats Dan Morrell Jr., that really takes him to another place in the light heavyweight division. And I think if you follow up the Joshua Buatsi win with a win over Morrell, you're knocking right there on the door of a world title potentially in your next fight. So it's a great fight. Shout out to my man Kato with the $5 super chat. He says, "I hope you get the Andy Hiroka interview with his dad. I'm very interested in hearing their side of the story." Yes, and thank you for the super chat. Thank you for all the love, Kato. Yeah, his dad commented on my video that I did about him. I don't know if you guys saw, if you guys heard, but the last Andy Hiroka video I did about a day or two after the fight, Andy Hiroka's dad commented on the video, and I pinned the comments. So if you go to that video and look at the comments, it'll be the first comment you see. He literally said, he gave the whole explanation of what happened, everything they went through, from Japan to flying to Seattle to flying to Vegas to the medical, like he laid it all out. And then he's apparently Andy Hiroka's dad, Justice. He's a part of the untouchable True School Sports empire. He likes what we do here on True School Sports, so shout out to him. I did respond to the comment, and I did reach out to him for an interview. So we'll see if he gets back to me. But nonetheless, it's cool that he showed love. He don't gotta do that. Isn't Pitbull a bit small for 140? He's talking about going to 147 for Ryan. You think he'd want to come? Um, is he small for 140? Yeah, he's small for 140, but he makes it work. He's physically strong. Like, he's not big in height, but he's physically strong. He fought very well against Lamar Roach and you know dropped him in the fight, and you know Pitbull. Listen, Pitbull's one of them guys. He could be 135, 140. He's gonna rumble. He knows how to rumble. My man said BT versus Hyro. Hyro don't want that smoke. Hyro don't want that smoke at all. I'm an Andy Hiroka fan. That fight with Russell wasn't scored correctly at all. Yeah, I mean, I didn't score round by round, but I thought probably Russell won by a point or two just because of the when you factor in the point deduction and then Andy starting off really slow in the first 6 rounds. I thought Russell maybe got it by a point or two, but if you remove the point deduction, then you're looking at a fight, in my opinion, where you could have said Andy pulled it out. But the point deduction to me is what objectively would have sealed the deal for Russell, even though the scorecards were already wide and probably filled out before Andy Hiroka even left Japan. What do you think Raymond Murataya does next? I think Raymond Murataya probably. What does he do next? That's a good question. I don't know, because I don't think he's gonna fight mandatory. That's what I do think. Maybe he fights because you got he's at 35. So you got who the champion is there right now? You got Murataya. I don't know, man. I want to see him fight Mason. I would like that fight, but I know Mason is I know Mason is gonna fight Joe Cordina apparently. So I don't know. Are we gonna get another Angelo Leo interview? Yeah. Do you guys want one? If you guys want one, we can make it happen. Because in our last interview, we just mainly talked about the other champions, but for our next interview, we'll make it about Raiz, all about Raiz. What are your thoughts on Warrington versus Wood 2? And is the UK the best at marketing, supporting, selling washed fighters because they managed to hype up? I think they're very good at it because they're selling that fight based on what those guys were years ago, not what they presently are. Um, and really, those guys don't have no other option but to fight each other because nobody wants to see those guys fight the other top young guys. But I don't really have any big time thoughts on Warrington versus Wood. That's why I haven't done a video about it because I don't really care like I used to about. I mean, that's messed up to say, but I'm just being honest. Like those guys are not interesting fighters to me right now. Now I'll tune in, I'll watch when it happens. I'll watch and I'll probably do a video about it, but it's not like one of those fights on the schedule for me. Just being honest. Are you helping Team Leo with film study? Any way I can. I mean, that's one of them. But I mean, yeah. I mean, we all watch film between Miguel, myself, Angelo, Johnny, and the other fighters. Okay, we all watch film together, and we all come together with a great game plan. And we got Miguel, who's one of the best trainers in boxing, and we got Luis Chavez, who's one of the wisest men in boxing. You put it all together, you have a great team. So, yeah, anything that they need done from just anything, like anything as big as anything, like as far as film study or even giving out tickets on the last day of the fight, whatever it takes. Wood the versus Warrington 2 already happened last weekend. Did it really? Who won? I'm so serious. I didn't even know what happened. If Andy is signed to Zuffa, who wins? Jogbar or Andy? Dang, that's crazy. What in Warrington really happened? See, that's how you guys know I don't care about that fight. I didn't care about that fight. I legit did not even see. I didn't see nobody post about it. I didn't see no reaction. I didn't see nothing. Nobody talked about it. BT versus Sean to tell. Nah, We're not gonna fight each other. We're gonna be on that Keyshawn Davis versus Shakur Stevenson. I wouldn't fight my friends, my brother. Damn, for real? That's crazy. I'm supposed to be the one breaking news to you guys, and y'all breaking news to me. I'm so serious. Like, I'm not even playing with you. I had zero idea that Lee Wood versus Warrington even happened. Like, I knew that they were supposed to fight. I'd seen like clips of the little face-off interview they did, but that's crazy. And nobody said anything. I'm on Twitter all the time. I'm on Twitter all the time, so I follow a lot of boxing fans and boxing accounts. I'm on Instagram. I follow a lot of boxing fans and boxing accounts. No one on my feed talked about no damn Lee Wood versus Josh Warrington, and I be following some Brits too. So I don't know. That's crazy. That fight really wasn't a big fight then. Cause how the hell did I not know about it? It's my job. Was it the day of Ryan Garcia versus Barrios? That's crazy. Well, you know what? Me and Angelo be watching a lot of fights. So, like we watched Navarrete Suarez today. We're gonna watch Tension versus Takuma because he hasn't watched it, and I guess we'll add it to the list. We'll add Warrington and Lee Wood to the list. Pamaroom says boxing needs bad romance to thrive. So this lawsuit is the new Don King drama. Love you, BTN. Love you and all the fine folks here. Shout out to you, Pamaroom. Drama, it always sells. Who doesn't love drama? If I'm being honest, I didn't watch. I just know the result. Yes, it was the afternoon of Garcia versus Barrios. Well, that's why that day I had so much going on with the fight, and I was moving. Bro, that was crazy because that afternoon Zoro and Benavidez had their press conference. So it was probably happening during the Zoro Benavidez press conference, and I didn't even know about it. And you know what's crazy? I was around tons of boxing media. Like, not one reporter, not two reporters, but I'm talking about like 15 to 30 the reporters, and not one person in the media room said, "Hey, are you gonna watch that Lee Wood versus Josh Warrington too?" Nope. No one was talking about that in the media room, so impressive. Kato says maybe you could have fight reviews with you and Angelo. I'd watch that. I think it's a good idea. You know, we Angelo's been in a couple like old post fight reviews on this channel. Like if you guys go back and you look up Nonito Donaire versus Nordino Bali post fight review, he's in that video. Gervonta Davis versus Isak Cruz, he's in that video. The reviews for that video. So he even went live on Quiet as Kept back in 2020. Was it one? Angelo and Johnny did a whole live, and I wasn't in it. I wasn't even in the live. It was Angelo and our friend Johnny. They did the whole live for Teofimo Lopez versus George Kambosos Jr. because I went to the Brandon Figueroa Stephen Fulton fight. True story. But yeah, let's take a poll. Would you guys like to see that series? Because we watch a lot of boxing. We watch a whole lot of boxing. Let me know, and I'll run it by him. I'll run it by him when I see him, and if he's down for it, maybe that's what we could do in our downtime for camp. Cause what did you rate Shields' performance in her latest fight? If you've seen it, you know, the typical Clarissa Shields fight. You know where. You know, Cruz, I think Franchon Cruz early on, like the first round and a half, she tried to impose her because she's naturally a heavier girl. But then once the fight settled down and it became about skills, Franchon Cruz couldn't do anything with Clarissa Shields. Clarissa Shields too strong, too fast, too precise. She has too many different looks that she's showing Franchon Cruz. I thought it was another great performance and what's been a pretty damn good career. I think Clarissa Shields is the best fighter in boxing since Floyd Mayweather. In America, at least. The best American fighter since Floyd. And definitely the most accomplished. 3-time undisputed, 2-time gold medalist. A legitimate superstar that could actually sell 15,000 plus or more in her hometown. Like people want to act like Clarissa Shields ain't one of the top fighters out there, or like she's not an American sporting icon. She is, and I give her flowers while she's here. Even though I don't really care about women's boxing anymore, I haven't cared about women's boxing legitimately for like 3 to 4 years. But her fights, I watch her fights because she's actually legitimately great. My man Paulie says I love post-fight reviews, and Dog says I watch that too. So I'll run it by Angelo. And then I think Angelo's supposed to go live on TikTok later today because he like that's something he's doing himself personally to build his audience on TikTok with his fans. So I'll run it by his viewers later on if he goes live, and we'll see, man. Because you know, one thing about camp is like camp is it's definitely fun. It's a lot of hard work. So don't think it's just like it's a lot of hard work, and there's a lot. It's to win and do great. There's a lot of planning, and there's a lot of attention to detail that has to be paid. But there's always some downtime, right? We watch a lot of boxing in our downtime, so might as well make good use of it. Maybe you guys can get better insight on classic fights or things like that from a legitimate top fighter, you know, world champion, a great boxing mind in his own right, and a great fan of the sport, and Angelo. So why not? Why is people forgetting that Pac-Man flushed out in an upset in Thurman when he was supposed to be washed up? And I say that to say this: should MMW be concerned? Oh, Money Mayweather. I mean, Manny Pacquiao is he's Manny Pacquiao, right? Even if he's Manny Pacquiao, even if he isn't Manny Pacquiao, if you know what I'm saying. Like even if he's not what he used to be, he's still, you know how to fight, you know. Floyd's legs aren't gonna be what they were when he was older, so he might have to fight more in the pocket and hold his feet. So yeah, I would say there should be a little concern. Who do you think Usyk fights next? Torres or Frank Sanchez? Honestly, I don't know who I think he'll fight, but I don't think he'll fight those guys. Just being honest. Yeah, Leo knows the game. That'd be dope. Seeing what he. Yeah, you know what? Maybe I'll do a community post and I'll ask you guys here to give me some fights, or maybe the fights we just watch on our own. We'll give our thoughts on those, and you guys can just dissect those, because you know we're trying to you know get his name out there a bit more. So if we can do our little part here on True School Sports and develop the the relationship with the audience. Let's do it. Let's do it. Because I've been telling y'all for years, he's like one of you guys. So when you guys hate on him, you really hate yourself. Wonder where the hell he is. I didn't think that we were gonna be alive this long because I thought I had to be somewhere. But you guys are very fortunate today. I'm here. I'm here longer than I thought it would be. So make sure you smash that like button, super chat, show your appreciation, subscribe, all that blase. We here, man. The untouchable. Add Seiya Suing versus Daigo Higa to that list. I've been putting him on to a lot of Japanese boxing over the last year or so. So one fight I really want to show him is Seigo Yuriokui versus Kenshiro Taraji, one of the greatest fights of all time. Oh my god, what a fight. If you want to see him talk about Seiya versus Daigo Higa, we're gonna watch a bunch of fights and we'll see what we come up with. We'll see what. If Leo's running, why aren't you there too, BT? Well, it's a great question. Because your boy BT, look at my hands. Come on. Look at my hands. You see my hand right there? You see them knuckles right there? You see it? Because today's my rest day. You know, he's running to maintain. I'll be in the gym tomorrow training hard. Where does Spence fit in today's boxing, and should the boxing committee give him a deep conditional examination before he's going back into the ring? Is he a shot fighter? I think he's a shot fighter, and they're putting him in there with another guy who might be potentially shot in Tim Tszyu. So you can't even say much, even if he wins, because he's fighting a guy that has questions in his own right with Tim Tszyu. Um, I think they should, but who knows? Who knows what they're doing? Look, look, just so you guys know, don't get it twisted. You see them knuckles? I didn't get that by not training hard. You know. Who has the balance of power in boxing right now? Pamaroon. Balance of power. As far as like promoters, come on, man. You know the answer to that. It's Turkey. Turkey this. Turkey that. At least we get in the fights. At least we get in the fight. You guys remember that? At least we get in the fights. Now look. Now it's at least we get in the lawsuits. At least we get in the lawsuits. Cause everyone's suing everybody. Turkey. Frank Warren suing Turkey. Oscar suing Rick Morrigan. The Untouchable. Why is he suing in my live? So for those of you who are just tuning in and haven't heard the news that was reported yesterday, the reason why Frank Warren is suing Turki Al Sheikh is because Turki Al Sheikh and Salah, the company from Saudi Arabia that helps put on these events, they signed an exclusive agreement with Queensberry Promotions and Frank Warren to do business with him. And Frank Warren played an integral role in those early days of Riyadh season, helping stage fights like Usyk versus Fury, right? And a lot of Frank Warren fighters, Queensberry fighters, have been fought on big time spots on those Riyadh season cards. You understand? So the agreement stated that any business that was done for the Saudis would have to include Frank Warren. But then when Zuffa Boxing came into the fold, Turki Al Sheikh cut Frank Warren out of the deal. So now he's working with Dana White, and now that's why Frank Warren is suing him for upwards of $1 billion and 730 pounds. So that's the long and the short of it. What's your favorite bag to work at the gym? My favorite bag to work at the gym is the heavy bag. I like just like the regular heavy bag. Yeah, the heavy bag for sure. I like the heavy bag, and I like shadow boxing. I like putting my headphones in and putting on some good music and just shadow boxing. all my problems in the world, all my problems and fears and anxieties and anything that may be in this brain, it just vanquishes for as long as I decide to shadow box with my headphones in. So keep it simple. My new favorite thing is becoming the bamboo stick to the stomach, like on the Manny Pacquiao. I like that because you know, I wanna, trim some fat out this lower stomach. So we're eating better. We've been eating a little bit better over the last couple of months, and um, definitely gonna be doing that now in camp. And yeah, it's all about being your best. What leverage does Dana and Zufa? What leverage does Dana White and Zufa hold? They have Turkey Al Sheik bankrolling them. They have and they have Paramount Plus, and they have Ari Emanuel and Nick Khan and all those powerful Jewish people. They have a lot behind them. BT, do you plan on coming to Cleveland anytime one day? We got killers that need more shot, and someone like you can help a lot. I would love to come to Cleveland, man, but I mean, I don't know when I'm gonna go to Cleveland. Um, it's funny you say that because I want to say it was like maybe 2 months ago. That exact thought crossed my brain because I do know the Mason family pretty well. Like I know Amir Mason really well. That's probably out of all the Mason brothers, that's the one I'm most close to. Is the oldest one, Amir Mason. He calls me sometimes and will FaceTime me some at times. And Valiant Mason, the father, I got a good relationship with him. Obviously, I've met Abdullah. I've interviewed Abdullah. I've even organized sparring for Abdullah Mason when he came down to South Florida one time. So I got a lot of love for the Masons, and I know some fighters down in Ohio. Um, I can't give you a definitive answer, but I would love to do it at some point this year. So whenever I make plans to go to the Ohio area and visit the gyms in Cleveland and things like that, you can bet your bottom dollar that you'll hear about it. And I'd love to go to Ohio because Ohio is where some of the greatest fighters in the world come from. So why not? Thank you. Thank you for Are there any Thai boxers? I don't know of any. Thailand. I mean, you got Rung Vasai was a popular one back in the day. But as of right now, I mean, a lot of those guys are at 105 pounds, 108 pounds, things like that. Angelo, are you gonna pick up Johnny? Yeah, he commented in my live. He's like, tell Angelo to pick me up. All right. So guys, look. On that note, I think I'll wrap it up because we gotta go pick up the other member of Team Leo. But we'll be live. I don't know, maybe tomorrow, maybe the day after. I'm not sure. We're all over the place. But guys, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for just spending some time with me today. Thank you for like chatting it up with me and just continue to support True School Sports. I'm not sure what I'm doing this weekend for Navarrete Nunez, but expect some sort of live, whether it be during or after the fight. I'm not sure yet. I'm still figuring it out. Be patient with me. A lot of great content coming out. God bless. Take care, and I'll see you on the next one.